All right, everybody, live from West Kelowna. It must be Saturday night, and I got this is my excitement for a Saturday night at my age. It's what I like to do, but going to wait for you guys to get on board, and then we're going to talk about the truth about fruit and stop the nonsense. But till then, I'm always going to reflect on the past week, things I've seen or want to mention or whatever while I wait for the numbers to come in. But funny, I was thinking today, my first bodybuilding contest was 1983. It feels so long ago now, but and in 1983, one of the promoters of the contest I was competing in was actually just a factory worker at Kellogg's in London, Ontario. And we were all so thrilled because every competitor, every contestant received a box of Honey Nut cornflakes. They were new on the market there, and that was a big deal. And just to think how far the whole nonsense has come since then in terms of competition, we were all just thrilled to get a box of Honey Nut cornflakes for free, competing in a bodybuilding contest in a high school gym way back in 1983. So things have changed a lot. That's pretty comical to me. That was a big deal. The little wee trophies were about 1.5 feet and all those kind of things. So funny. So yeah, we're going to get on board. We're going to talk about the realities of fruit and fructose and everything else. And I'm just going to wait for everybody to get on board. I don't want people to miss anything. And then got a lot to get through, actually. So I'm gonna get out the big one later today. Yeah, I'm going to have to get out the big one. So you'll have to stay tuned and see what I'm talking about there. But everybody's getting on board from all over. We got Texas, we got Chicago, we got Connecticut, we got, I guess we got Greece. We got everybody getting on board. So going to talk about fruit because I just can't take it anymore, which is usually how a lot of these webinars get started. Comments that I see on social media or flat out lies that I see people promoting, which sometimes it's usually a little bit of both, and it drives me insane. So thought I would get to the heart of the matter this time and just start talking about the realities of fruit and the dangers of it as well. I think, when you think about kids model what they see. And if you think in your household, you got some psycho dieter who's going to then make kids afraid of healthy whole foods like fruit, that's a problem. So anyway, I'm going to talk about it to the open minds that may be on here, or the closed minds that may be on here. But I got the whole webinar presented, so we're going to get going here. So I'm just going to bring up my webinar notes. And then move my big fat head aside so you guys can see, everyone can see that and hear that, and then it's all good. So I wanted to get through the truth about food. What about all that sugar in fruit? Which comment I've got a lot, especially when I post things trying to help people. And then, of course, you get the wannabe experts out there who have insane comments to make. Now, some comments are from people who are just misinformed, but some comments are actually downright dumb and stupid, and I don't have a problem with saying that. I don't think it's being mean to call a dumb comment a dumb comment. So here's an example, my own example of, this is an example of a typical meal 2 for me, which is 40 grams of almonds and as much fruit as I want to eat. In this particular case, you got an apple there, you've got 5 medium-sized clementines, and you got the largest banana that I can find, and that's my meal 2. And another example, I posted this one on Instagram, and this is what got the ball rolling for this week's webinar. This is one of Andy's meals, and if you know Andy, he's on board. I see him there. You know that he's absbyandy.com and in shape 365, 24/7, ripped abs, all that. So I posted this again, trying to help people. You see, he's got the nuts there as well. He's got sliced apples, some cantaloupe, an orange, a banana. And some of the comments were just downright dumb. One of them was, that's an awful lot of fructose. And then some private messages like, how can I advocate telling people to eat that much fructose and blah, blah, blah. So that's what got the ball rolling. And some of the other comments were about how bloated and someone would be if they ate that. If they ate that much fruit, they would be all bloated and distended, which isn't true either in terms of the evidence. So we're going to talk about the evidence. So that's what I want to get through, but enough of the nonsense. People playing professors online who do 10 minutes of research, or even worse, they follow, like we the sheeple, some website or some guru who just wants to overcomplicate everything, who has also not done their research. So I'm going to do the research for you here, and we're going to get into it. But again, here's one of my typical meals. And, I don't have, I'm not overweight, never been overweight. And that's my meal too every day. And then this is one of Andy's meals too for the day. And now we're going to get to the lecture. Now, the first part of the lecture here is actually from Michael Greger's book, How Not to Die. So the first part I'm borrowing from him. So credit goes where it should go. So let's see, what does the research actually say about fruit and fructose? So let's get into it. All right, guys. And then I'll get to your comments as we go along. But I'm going to riff, and I'm going to rant, and I'm going to rave, and I'm going to moan, and I'm going to drone, because that's my nature. And when it comes to a topic like this, I can't believe how much we're overcomplicating what's actually pretty simple common sense. So there's a few popular diets out there that urge people to stop eating fruits because their natural sugars, aka fructose, are thought to contribute to weight gain, or even more nonsensical ill health like diabetes, things like that. And those were the kind of comments I was getting when I posted this. People actually telling me that I should do my research. Well, go screw yourself. Here's the research. So the truth is, only fructose from added external sourced sugars appears to be associated with declining liver function, high blood pressure, diabetes, weight gain, etc. So I'm going to throw a lot of research at you. So you got it right here in the notes if you want to follow up. This one by PETA al. Industrial, not fruit fructose intake is associated with the severity of liver fibrosis in genotype 1 chronic hepatitis C patients. That's from the Journal of Hepatology. And then another one there, Madero et al., the effect of two energy-restricted diets, a low fructose diet versus a moderate natural fructose diet on weight loss and metabolic syndrome parameters, a randomized controlled trial, metabolic clinical journal there, both relevant to saying that it's only fructose from external sources that's used as an additive, usually to processed foods, that matters, and not fruit fructose associated with any kind of weight issues or ill health matters. So the point here, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and the source of an ingredient matters. So how could the fructose as an added sugar be bad, but the so-called same fructose in fruit be harmless? Well, in nature, fruit comes packaged differently. It's prepackaged with fiber, with antioxidants, phytonutrients, micronutrients that we don't even know, haven't even identified them all yet. And these appear to nullify the effects of adverse fructose effects. And you can get that in that same study I just mentioned. And the study Industrial, not fruit fructose intake is associated with the severity of certain health parameters. And we're going to talk digestion, we're going to talk health, we're going to talk vitality, we're going to talk weight control, all those things. So let's switch now to insulinogenic effects. Can't eat fruit because even if it's not the fructose, it's going to send your insulin flying, and that's what's going to make you fat. This is the common misinformation of keto idiots out there who don't understand that the insulin connection has been debunked over and over again, the carbohydrate insulin thing. So, you can't eat fruit because that's going to make your insulin go up. Well, studies show, we're going to talk about a study now that actually talks about rebound hypoglycemia, etc. And then we're going to show what happens when you add fruit. So studies show that if you drink a glass of water with 3 tablespoons of sugar, like just straight table sugar, that's similar to something in a basic can of pop, you're going to have a big spike in your blood sugar levels within the first hour. And that causes your body to release so much insulin, mop up the excess sugar, that you actually overshoot and become what we call rebound hypoglycemic by the second hour, meaning that your blood sugar drops even lower than it would have been if you were fasting. And that's known as rebound hypoglycemia. Fitness people already know this, so it's kind of like get to the point. Your body detects this low blood sugar, thinks you might be in some sort of famine situation, and responds by dumping fat into your bloodstream as an energy source to keep you alive. And this excess fat in the blood can then go on to cause a lot of problems. And that's from Turonin, al. Postprandial glucose, insulin, and free fatty acid responses to sucrose consumed with black currants and lingonberries in healthy women, American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, 2012. However, there's more to this study. So, okay, we show I wasn't part of the study, sorry about that. They show in the study that a typical consumption of a sugar water, you get the insulin response you would think you would get from a straight shot of insulin. Well, let's look at some other factors. So as we see in this study, what if you eat a cup of blended berries in addition to the sugar water? So that's what they did here. So the berries, 1 cup of berries, of course, is going to have fructose sugars all their own. And we're adding that, all right, adding that tablespoon of fruit to the 3 tablespoons of sugar water in the same study. So adding extra sugars in the form of berries, that should make the blood sugar spike be even worse, right? If you're following the logic, if you're having an insulin dump because of straight sugar water and you're adding even more sugar in the form of fruit, if the fructose is bad and it's going to cause an insulin response, then that spike should be even greater. Actually, that's not what happened. Study participants who ate berries with their cup of sugar water show no additional blood sugar spike, and in bold here, no hypoglycemic dip afterward. Their blood sugar levels merely went up and then back down, and there was no surge of fat into the blood. Really, really important. So that's the same study right here. I'm just highlighting that for you. All right. Postprandial glucose, insulin, free fatty acid responses to sucrose consumed with black currants and lingonberries in healthy women. So what does that tell us? Well, one, again, the insulin carbs argument falls apart because adding the berries to the sugar water should have created an even more intense sugar spike, but actually the fruit nullified the spike. So consuming sugar in whole fruit form is not only harmless, but actually helpful in terms of insulinogenic response. Eating berries and other fruits can blunt the insulin spike from hypoglycemic foods like white bread, white rice, etc. And that's from a different study from Turonin al. And then this is the name of the study right here. Berries reduce postprandial insulin responses to wheat and rye beds in healthy women. Journal of Nutrition, 2013. So you can see that we're having different than expected what the common arguments out there are in social media world, the misinformed world, the uninformed world about fructose and insulin, or fructose and fruit and insulin as well. But how and why is it? What's the difference? Well, it may be because the fiber in fruit has a gelling effect in your stomach and small intestine that slows the release of sugars, or because of certain phytonutrients in fruit that appear to block the absorption of sugar through the gut wall into your bloodstream. So what do I have in bold here? And you guys can all see this, I hope. Eating fructose the way nature intended you to eat it carries benefits rather than risks. Eating fructose packaged the way nature intended you to eat it carries benefits rather than risks. All right, so you've got that same study that I already quoted, and then you've got this one at the bottom, Manzano, al, polyphenols and phenolic acids, strawberry and apple decrease glucose uptake and transport by human intestinal CaCO2 cells in the Molecular Nutrition of Food Research, 2010. So this is really, really important stuff. So Nelson's just asking me if I can give my Instagram for people to follow me. Someone want to type in my Instagram address, and Nelson, you can see it in the comment section. But I'm on a roll here, so everybody following me so far, just put hit some emoticons or whatever. Let you can hear you're following what I'm getting at. So far, you're seeing the fructose argument is falling apart. And I'm going to get. But wait, there's more. Let's turn this into an infomercial for actual knowledge, because I'm just downright pissed at people with a gazillion follows out there who spout off nonsense and don't offer any research. And then when I offer research, the comments I get on YouTube and stuff is, I need to do my research. Really? Okay, anyway, so low dose fructose can actually benefit blood sugar control. Eating a piece of fruit with each meal can be expected to lower rather than raise blood sugar response. So there goes the insulin, carbohydrate insulin argument again, which is sort of the kindergarten misinformation argument of keto dieters. So what about people with type 2 diabetes? Diabetics randomized into a group restricted to no more than 2 pieces of fruit a day had no better blood sugar control than those randomized into a group told to eat a minimum of 2 pieces of fruit today. So the researchers concluded, and this is the researchers here, look at this, the intake of fruit should not be restricted in patients with type 2 diabetes. All right, so even people with type 2 diabetes benefit from whole fruit consumption. Oh, yeah, prove it. Well, here's the research. Stephen Piper, al., catalytic doses of fructose may benefit glycemic control without harming cardiometabolic risk factors. A small meta-analysis of randomized controlled feeding trials. British Journal of Nutrition. Christensen al., effect of fruit restriction on glycemic control in patients with type 2 diabetes, a randomized trial, Nutrition Journal 2013. So as we see people actually do their homework, then this stuff falls apart. So question on my Instagram, it's Coach Scott Abel on Instagram for Nelson there. So let me continue on here. So how much is too much? You get that question too. Well, I want to eat fruit. People are still, I want to eat fruit, but I want to look good and it's too hard to measure. And so how much is too much? It's so hard to measure fruit accurately. Well, that's one of the things you shouldn't measure. So surely there must be some level of fructose consumption that's harmful, right? Like there's got to be a limit where you can eat too much, right? Well, apparently not. So the answer to that is nope. So hopefully you're sharing this, especially to your keto friends. So here's a study here. 17 people were asked to eat 20 servings of fruit a day for months. So in other words, they became fruit-based diet for months, not days. Despite the extraordinary high fructose content of the fruit-based diet, the sugar equivalent of about 8 cans of soda a day. So we see here, not all foods are equal. So you can also use this to decapitate if it fits your macros nonsense. So 20 servings of fruit a day, all right, really high fructose content, all right, the equivalent of 8 cans of pop a day. The investigators reported, look what I put in capitals here, beneficial outcomes with no overall adverse effects for body weight, for blood pressure, for insulin, for cholesterol, for triglyceride levels. Let's read that again. Beneficial outcomes from 20 servings of fruit a day with no overall adverse effects on body weight, blood pressure, insulin, cholesterol, triglyceride levels. More recently, because that was an older study, more recently, a research group who invented the glycemic index found that feeding subjects a fruit, vegetable, and nut-based diet that included 20 servings of fruit a day for a couple of weeks had, and I quote, no adverse effects on weight, blood pressure, or triglycerides, all while lowering LDL cholesterol by an astounding 38 points. So a different study by people who are all about the glycemic index, which I'm not about, but all right, on a fruit, vegetable, and nut-based diet, including 20 servings of fruit a day for a couple of weeks, no adverse effects on weight, on blood pressure, on triglycerides, all while lowering the bad cholesterol by an astounding 38 points. So I'll give you the research on that. Meyer al., some physiological effects of a mainly fruit diet in man. South African Medical Journal, and then Meyer AL. Now you can see some biochemical effects of a mainly fruit diet in man, South African Medical Journal, but two different articles, one talking about physiology, one talking about biochemical responses. As you can see here, quality matters. It's not about the calorie. It's all about the source. All right. So it's not about, the equivalent of 8 cans of pop a day, 20 servings of fruit, beneficial, no adverse effects. All right. Let's get that done. So let's get that understanding. So what about fruit in general? So I think by now, you can assume that I have debunked and destroyed the fructose and insulin connection to fruit. What about fruit in general? All the above slides are just in reference to the fructose element of fruit eating, which now you should be able to see is nonsense. I can't believe the amount of attention this gets online. When it comes to natural fructose being any kind of a concern, if it's wrapped in nature, it's all good. So keep that in mind. If your fructose comes wrapped in nature, it's all good. In other words, if it comes from a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, don't. So if I covered the health effects now, turning away from the fructose, because I'm pretty sure I've debunked that to anyone with half a brain. If I cover the health benefits now and the anti-disease benefits of fruit, we'd be here for weeks and weeks. If I cover the benefits of fruit versus meats with the research, we'd be here for months. So that's what I want to get at. However, there's some things to look at. Enter politics into the picture and political interests. You're not going to see too many politicians or lobbyists for the sweet potato or an apple. It just doesn't happen. So that's not how politics work. But you do have strong lobbyists for meat and dairy. So when politics enter the picture, it gets clouded. So there's a greater politics to address and the reason why these things get clouded. When we talk about foods, and we're talking about eat food, not a lot, mostly plants, we're talking about whole foods. Being reductionist in nature, reductionist scientist misses the point, as we see here. When we try to reduce fruit to fructose, we make all kinds of extrapolations that are in error and misinformed and outright wrong, and actually dangerous. But as we see with the fructose argument, fruit is far greater than the sum of its parts and far greater than its fructose composition. Fructose as an additive is the issue. It's from the outside in. Fructose additive is almost always added to processed foods anyway. So you're comparing bicycles to toilet seats. It makes no sense at all when you're doing reductionist science. So whole fruit is not the issue. However, when these pundits try the same reductionist nonsense approach to other foods where the claims are actually true, where they're false about fructose and false about fruit and insulin, but where they're actually true, we see politics, heavy politics, enter the picture. So food industry politics, the research is pretty clear, and I'm going to get to that health and protection from disease, preventative through diet, have to do with eating less saturated fat, less trans fat, less cholesterol, and where applicable, less nitrates and less sodium. And what are the most greatest sources of these foods? Animal products, meat and dairy. And yet when one group tried to promote health by advocating for meatless Mondays, just a meatless Monday. I mean, if they're not telling people to go vegan, nothing like that. Just meatless Monday as a way to take better care of your health and yourself. They were attacked by powerful meat and dairy lobbies to the point where they had to rephrase. So politically speaking, we can say in reductionist terms, for the best of health, choose foods with less saturated fats, less trans fats, less cholesterol, but we can't say eat less meat and dairy, even though they are the main food sources of these elements that negatively impact health. That makes no sense to me. So the reductionist nature of food science, when you do this and you reduce everything to components and pretend that they're not part of a greater whole, then food science ends up becoming nutritionism rather than nutrition science. And then that reductionist pseudoscience becomes a political tool a political weapon even if needs be. That's why my first series in my webinars way back when, like 6-part series, was all called Low Carb Lies and Politics for Profit. This is how this works. So you, the consumer, seldom get the whole story. What you get is gimmicky nonsense like gluten-free candy, fat-free cured meats, gluten-free cured meats, wild keto claims, net carbs, fruit makes you fat, and other political tools that get you to buy into notions of health and not reality health. So you end up with, instead of a science of nutrition, you end up with nutritionism, which is a belief system. My God is the right God and your God is the wrong God. Everyone talking past themselves and not using science. Getting back to fruit, let's talk digestion, because a lot of people will say, oh, fruit makes me bloated. Fruit does this, fruit does. Actually, no, it's an indicator of digestive health. That's a different thing. Fruits are extremely unlikely to cause bloating, distension, things like that. In fact, fresh fruit is usually prescribed to remedy these digestive issues, and you can see more on that in Modern Nutrition and Health and Disease. That's the big boy I'm going to bring out in a minute. So the food's most likely to cause digestive stress that produces these kind of things like colon hockey and bloating and distension are eggs, dairy, cruciferous vegetables, which are broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage and things like that, sometimes beans and legumes, and not whole grains unless you have celiac, and then it's just wheat, not all grains. And then let me get a little further in the politics, because when it trickles down to the consumer consumption based, you end up getting things that are practically impossible in real world. So I'll get people that write me and say, I'm gluten intolerant, I'm dairy intolerant, I'm carb resistant, and it's virtually impossible to have all these things going on at one time. You can have one, but to have them all tells me you're buying into a lot of vogue trends that tell you that the more stuff you keep out of your diet, the healthier you're going to be, and that's never a healthy way to look at food. So that's my soapbox on that. Now, when it comes to fruit, let's talk the hunger satiety feedback loop. I talk a lot about that in my book, Beyond Metabolism. People might want to get that. You can see it behind me, I think, but I got Understanding Metabolism popped up there. But one of the best ways to restore normal function to a broken hunger satiety feedback loop is to have one meal where you eat as much fruit as desired. For people who have damaged metabolism, this feedback loop, you've damaged your hunger satiety feedback loop, usually through extreme dieting, like post-competition, post-competitors. This is one of the best ways to eventually restore normal function. You can't do it within an existing time frame, but it certainly can be done. And I had one of my own clients say to me, just this week, someone wrote me and said, well, I'm trying to lean out, and you've got on one of my meals to have as much fruit as I like with such and such. What if I want 10 apples? I said, then go ahead and have 10 apples. And other people don't understand that that is an impossibility. So one of the best ways to reconnect a malfunctioning hunger feedback loop, hunger satiety feedback loop, is a meal of just fruit. How that works, I'm not exactly sure. But the fact, I've been using it with ladies with metabolic damage for years and years and years, and it works. I mean, it might take a long time, but it actually works. But what do people do? They'll try to cut back because just in case fruit is bad. Well, hopefully you're getting the notion here that this is one of the ridiculous things. And one of the things that happens, one of the main things that happens with metabolic damage and post-competitors is they can no longer really tell when they're hungry and when they're full. So they go from either ravenous or emotional eating because of ravenous emotion, or they can't really tell when they're full anymore. So when you're doing that, then calorie counting isn't going to help. Macro fitting isn't going to help. What's going to help is restoring that hunger satiety feedback loop. And one of the best ways of doing that is with a meal with this just as much fruit, because you will end up stop eating. So let's talk real weight control and not bull crap that I see online. No one ever got, this is one of my ableisms, no one ever got fat from eating too many apples. But the majority of people become overweight from eating too much meat and dairy or dairy. That's in the research. The research on this is overwhelming and emphatic about this. Oh, yeah, show me that research. Okay, I will show you that research. And it's funny because even when I do these webinars that are based on research and I post them to YouTube, I still get morons telling me to check my research and do my research. I just gave you my research, but I'm going to give you a whole hell of a lot more in a minute. So that's one of the most insulting and offensive things to me is when people tell me to do my research because they disagree with my point of view. They haven't done any. They don't throw any at me, but they tell me I'm not doing mine when in a 1-hour webinar, I'll present at least 20 pieces of research, and it just boggles my mind. But that is what nutritionism is now, folks. So let's talk about real weight control. So no one ever got fat from eating too many apples. Majority of people get overweight from eating too much meat and or dairy, and the research on this is overwhelming. So back to digestion now, just for a second. And Perry's just posting some links to my stuff, Beyond Metabolism, things like that. So as you can imagine, no one has ever sat down at a meal and decided I'm going to have 10 large apples just because as part of my meal. I feel like I'm going to follow what Scott says, and I'm going to eat as much fruit as I want, and I'm going to eat 10 apples. Andy has one of the biggest metabolisms I've ever seen in the cycle diet era, and there's no way even Andy can sit down and eat 10 apples. But here's the thing, nor would he want to. So it's not about, oh, I want to eat 10 apples. This is the health of reconnecting the satiety hunger feedback loop is you don't eat out of want. You eat to satiation, and then you're done. So when it comes to healthy, whole, unprocessed foods, the body has a mechanism to just stop eating when it's satiated, when it understands it no longer needs food, all right? But it's very, very easy to overeat animal sources of calories like meat, milk, dairy, etc. The hunger satiety feedback loop simply doesn't respond to animal products in the same healthy way it responds to plant-based fruits and veggies, including starch veggies. That part is conjecture on my behalf. However, it is based on a leap of faith from the research. So, and it's also based, if you read my book, Metabolic Damage and the Dangers of Dieting, trying to repair that hunger satiety feedback loop again, it's harder and harder to do with animal sources because that's where people get caught up. Am I hungry? Am I full? Am I not hungry? Am I full? They start to try to measure calories and grams, and they never get that restored and repaired. And that becomes even worse if you're trying outside-in stuff like caloric formulas, calculations, and macro percentages and things like that in a damaged metabolism. That's never going to be the way back. And if you just have to crunch the numbers in all this, then let's do some numbers. My favorite once per year meal is the cowboy ribeye at Ruth Chris Steakhouse in Aruba. I look forward to having that once a year. That cowboy ribeye by itself, I looked it up, has well over 1,000 calories, and I also get the big size as well, which is even more. And the ladies' size petite filet has about 500 calories. And this is just the meat portions. This isn't appetizers or dessert or anything like that. Well, if we wanted to reduce, that reduction is science again, to numbers and get the equivalent calories of that meat from an apple, then I would have to eat over 10 large apples in one sitting to match that very easy for me to eat cowboy ribeye steak. I would never get through 10 large apples, nor would I be enjoying it after the 7th or 6th one. I would be trying to fit it in, yet with meat, I can get through that 1,000 calorie cowboy ribeye and still be looking at my side dishes and my dessert. So you're looking at a different effect on hunger satiety feedback loop. That's got to make sense, I hope, folks. So if we then did a nutrition density analysis as to which choice is healthier in terms of overall nutritional density, then there's no comparison there either. The fruit would win. So what is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? The real truth and the real nutrition science is about what foods do as a whole are or what foods as a whole are or are not, and what they do or do not do. The whole is always greater than the sum of its parts, and whole, unprocessed, plant-based food, including fruits, including starches, are far, far superior than animal flesh for health and for weight control, period, exclamation point, boom, chicka, boom, boom. That's that. And I'm going to get to the rest of it then. Let's look at the real science. Let's forget pseudoscience that is all over social media, on Instagram. Let's forget scientism. Let's forget nutritionism. All right, let's forget the isms that shouldn't be there when you're looking at true research and true science. Nelson's just saying he tried it on bananas and he stopped at 4. But 4 pieces of pizza is another story. Yeah, I want to get to all this, very, very important. Just hold on, folks, until I get to the end of my rant. And I want to get your comments, especially the ladies who said they were looking forward to this. You guys are awfully quiet. So on top of all the research I've just showed you, all right, let's look at the real science from a real textbook, not internet, social media sites who try to write editorials as if they're research papers. The amount of people that send me stuff during the week to read, hey, Scott, will you read this and comment it on your show? And what they're sending me isn't research. It's dressed up to look like research, and it's some website. So I can't use that. But here's Modern Nutrition, Health, and Disease. And for those of you, I'm just going to, let me just get in here for 1 sec, because this is going to break my back lifting this up. So I'm just going to put my big fat noggin whole screen. So you guys have seen me hold this up before. Modern Nutrition and Health and Disease. This is the textbook, 3,000 pages, folks. 3,000 pages, all right? I've read it twice, all right? And if you just look at the authors of this, you will be blown away. So let's get to what this has to say. So fructose, plant-based diet. All right, let's talk. What does the research actually say? All right, so I'm going to hold up the big one. And I know most of you, when I first started in the beginning and said I was going to hold up the big one later, you were hoping for something else, but I'll have to wait for another time on a more X-rated webinar. But here's what we have to, I separated some stuff out just so I could read it to you. And then I will show you, come to the conclusions. The available evidence most strongly supports an association between animal fat consumption and risk of aggressive or advanced variations of cancer, prostate and colon. Then I go to, and I'm just skimming over stuff that I've highlighted. All right, and this is on page 1272. All right, so as far as meat goes, just let me get my mouse out of the way here so I don't knock you guys off. As far as meat goes, red meat intake has been associated with risk of several cancers, most notably of the colon, rectum, and prostate. So there you go, meat eating and rectum, damn near killed them. All right, and then down here, fruits and vegetables, all right, on the next page, conclude that diets high in fruits and vegetables were consistently associated with lower risk of some cancers. However, then I go to the next page. Fruits and vegetables contain a myriad of biologically active chemicals and non-recognized chemicals that healthy constituents to a healthy diet. So hang on, let me just, and then the end of this, although many details remain to be learned, evidence is strong that remaining physically active and lean throughout life, consuming an abundance of fruits and vegetables, avoiding high intakes of red meat, foods high in animal fat, highly processed carbohydrates, and excessive alcohol will substantially reduce the risk of human cancer. Now, let me show you something as well. That was the summary at the end of that chapter. And when I hold this up, hopefully you can see it. I don't want to knock my camera out. But at the end of this chapter, folks, for people who want to say, I don't do my research, can you see that there? Oh, you can't see it that well. You're going to have to trust me on that. But okay, that one chapter alone ends up with 255 references. 255 references. So people that want to tell me I don't do my research, you know what you can do with that comment. So now I'm going to switch. I went further into the book in terms of, and I just did a little bit about vegetarianism, and I'll just read you some quick takeaways that I highlighted. Dietary patterns of vegetarians were generally considered healthier than non-vegetarians. Diets of vegetarians tend to be lower in total fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol, higher in fiber than non-vegetarians. And then it goes down to vegetarians tend to weigh less than non-vegetarians, the difference being the least among lacto-ovo vegetarians and greatest among the vegans. That makes sense because a lacto-ovo vegetarian is basically still eating animal flesh. They're still eating dairy and eggs. So the larger number, and this is about weight control, all right? So larger amounts of carbohydrates are consumed by vegetarians. The result of this difference is that the vegetarians tend to have lower energy intake, lower body mass index, all right, than do omnivores. They may be closer to desirable weight and maybe closer approximate dietary recommendations for the distribution of macronutrients than do meat eaters and omnivores. Vegetarians also demonstrate more desirable weight patterns throughout life than omnivores, which means they're not going up and down in weight and they're not damaging their metabolisms in doing so. Let me just find, in addition to the higher intake of carbohydrates in vegetarians, may be less efficiently converted to body fat. So higher intake of carbohydrates, including starches, which are less efficiently converted into body fat. There goes the common argument that's online amongst keto idiots and the rest of them. And this is from a book, Modern Nutrition and Health and Disease, textbook. And if you look at the editors of this book in the front, people have been in it for 50 years. Walter Willett from Harvard School of Nutrition, people with credentials coming out their wazoos. And I mean real credentials, all right? I'm not talking about a national title in a fitness contest. I'm talking about people who do this stuff for a living. So let me just get to the last one. I broke out the big boy. So the association of vegetarian diets with lower risk of several chronic diseases is well documented. The standardized mortality ratio for all-cause mortality is greatly reduced among vegetarians who are known to consume more fruits, vegetables, and polyunsaturated fatty acids and less saturated fatty acids, cholesterol, than the general population. All right, lower risk of death from coronary heart disease among vegetarian population is well established and not surprising, given their dietary and lifestyle characteristics, resulting in lower body weight, lower blood pressure, lower serum lipid levels, so lower fats in the blood. All right, and that's also a comparison of vegetarians to non-vegetarians in terms of health. Data from cross-sectional studies have shown that blood pressure and prevalence of hypertension are lower in vegetarians than in omnivores. Vegetarians may be at less risk of developing diabetes than omnivores. Various factors among vegetarians have been suggested as protective for diabetes. Among these are lower body weight, lower serum cholesterol levels, higher complex carbohydrate and fiber intake. There's your starches, folks. All right. And lower fat and animal protein intake. Listen to this. The benefits of high carbohydrate, high fiber diets in treating diabetes has been demonstrated. All right. So that defeats that whole carbohydrate insulin argument when you're giving diabetics high carb diets to control and eradicate diabetes. All right. Longer duration of vegetarian practices decrease the risk of cancer mortality. So the longer you're eating a vegetarian plant-based diet, then the further decreases go down for your risk of dying from something. Now, here's the one I saved best to last. Frequent consumption of fruit, more than once a day, was associated with a 75% reduction in risk of lung cancer, independent of past smoking status. The risk of stomach cancer also greatly reduced in those who consume fruit regularly. All right. And then I think I stopped there, but I wanted to note a vegetarian diet helpful in managing hypertension. Vegetarian and diabetes I covered. And again, as long as you're eating whole foods, and I would hold this up, the conclusion of this chapter, current dietary recommendations call for increased consumption of plant foods in all diets. All right, evidence from populations consuming plant-based diets supports these recommendations. Now, I'm going to try to hold this up for you, but so the last chapter I quoted you from had 255 references. This chapter, well, you can't see it there, but I'll try to. Anyway, this chapter has a total of 165 academic references. Don't tell me I don't do my research. Don't tell me I don't do my homework. It's actually people that want to believe good things about their bad habits that we can't do anything about. So, but people with open minds, really, the argument is over, folks. And when you consider all these things together and we look at all of it, then we make the carb connection. The overwhelming conclusion here must be that it's not only what a vegetarian is eating that keeps them lean and healthy, it is also by nature of exclusion what they are not eating that keeps them lean and healthy. And pure vegan diets, when they are healthy, which isn't always the case, are always high carbs. Boom, shiki, boom, 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 slap, dunk, end of story, end of argument. Bring them on. Send me your keto worshipers and the rest, and tell them to come ready. Don't bring a knife to a gunfight. If you're going to come with research, come with research. Try to find whatever you can in a book like Modern Nutrition and Health and Disease. Read your 3,000 pages like I did, and then tell me what the conclusions are. People want evidence-based stuff. People want research. You give them both, and they still don't want to listen. So in terms of weight control, in terms of health, in terms of preventing major illnesses of the modern era like cancers and diabetes and hypertension, a plant-based diet with fruit, with starches, simply makes the most sense. So can we get past that once and for all? I sure hope so. So let me get to your comments. Lydia's just saying, I've adopted a whole food plant-based diet 2 months ago. Love it. And coffee's good. Coffee's fine. Nothing wrong with that. I never get tired of learning about this stuff. Closely follow Dr. Gregor McDougall. Yeah, you're reading all the right people. I love these webinars. Grew up Seventh-day Adventist household, was exposed to this way of eating lifestyle a long time ago. Like I know that every week I'm just preaching to the choir here because that's the nature of the internet now. Everyone's gone tribal, and that's unfortunate, but and Marie's just saying, yeah, I was wondering where everybody was, is taking it all in. I just want to earn a darn apple. Well, it shouldn't be something you earn, Marie. You can start by eating them straight away. There's nothing you need to earn. There's nothing to, you want to eat a darn apple. I'm sorry, my glasses, I went off and on. So eat an apple. That's good. Just eat an apple. Nothing wrong with that. So MD, physical medicine and coaching. Gotta love the rant. And then Nelson's comment I posted earlier, which is also, we talked about, go ahead and try that experiment. Sit down and say you want to eat, such and such amount of, fruit. Sit down and see how many apples you'll want to eat at the end of, at the end of a meal or at the beginning of a meal. Try the experiment and say, I want to eat this many apples, and sit down and see if you can do it. I'm willing to bet that you can't. So that's the thing there. Very, very important stuff. Hopefully, give me some more comments. I'll go back to the top and I'll take your questions and answers there. So, and Modern Nutrition, Health and Disease, I'm due for a new one. This one I have is an older edition, but still relevant, especially in light of the nonsense coming on board. And then just this morning, another piece of research just came. I didn't have time to prepare it, but it wasn't really a fruit-based, but it was just, let me just read it to you here. A plant-based dietary intervention improves beta cell function and insulin resistance overweight adults, a 16-week randomized clinical trial. So I'll have that in a future one as well. So this has been the truth about fruit and stopping the nonsense. And hopefully, you guys got every point that I was trying to make. I wanted to get it all in there in terms of the webinar and the carb connection and the rest of it. So hopefully that all makes sense, and we can talk about that. But really, I mean, when I post a picture like this, and just say, this is an example of meal 2, it's not to impress anybody, and you don't think it's meant as an educational tool. But when you see ridiculous comments like, that's an awful lot of fructose, and that would really cause me bloating and distension and stuff, when actually it would cure that, then we know how far behind nutrition science is from, what's going on online with misinformation and disinformation and all the rest of it. So it's really, really unfortunate that stuff is happening, but it is happening. So having said that, I'm going to try to bring in a surprise guest if I can. Let me just, you guys still hear me okay? Yep. So let me just see if I can get my big fat noggin out of the way and see what we got here. And boom, you there, buddy?
I am here.
All right.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Let's see if everyone else can hear you. You hear me all right?
Hey, everybody.
All right. So we got Andy here. And then what we're going to do is Andy and I have coffee with the coaches every Thursday, but it's just the two of us, so we're not impressing anybody. But Andy was making a note. I thought, we should talk about this. So, you're gone. Are you there, buddy?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Oh, and he's gone somehow.
What?
All right. Well, let's see if that straightens itself up. Everybody hear me all right? So, blending fruit with water, good, or eating fruit better. Eating fruit is always better. Eating fruit is always better for sure. So, yeah, absolutely. That's a very, very important thing. So I think I lost Andy, unfortunately. We were, he was here 1 minute and gone the next. So let me just see if I can bring him in there, see if he's, no, he's still gone. So I don't know what happened there, but yeah, he just disappeared on us. So maybe he was just too shy. We'll see if he can get his connection back or not. I'll give it a couple minutes. So any questions or comments, folks? Yeah, and there's a cool thing going on in Australia right now where some of the grocery stores are offering free fruit for the kids to just eat. So very, very cool stuff. So Andy's saying he's here in the lobby, but we can't get your picture or sound anymore, bud. So I guess we'll have to work that kink out. Another time. I'm not sure what happened there, but let me just see if maybe this helps. And then, no, don't have you there, buddy. So I'm not sure what happened. We lost you. Well, we had Andy, and we're going to bring him back maybe next week, and we'll get to something interesting there about if it fits your macros, etc. Carolyn's just saying, what's the best to eat with fruit? I think one of those pieces of research that I read, Carolyn said, nuts, fruit, that kind of thing is best. So, nuts with fruit tends to be one of the best things. So now they're saying that Andy's there again. So let me just see if I got him back. Let me get him to the broadcast. I think we do. There he is.
My back?
You're back, and you're front. So yeah, what we wanted to talk about. So hopefully no one's left yet. So Andy's still here. So we were just chatting away, and we were talking about stuff Andy can do online to make himself more visible. And we were talking about his epic cheat days and stuff. And And we came to the conclusion that Andy probably eats more junk food on a cheat day than most people eat in a couple weeks. So this got to the whole thing about the nonsense of if it fits your macros and the lack of research about training metabolism, because that's one thing I can't give you a lot of research on with the cycle diet because no one's doing that kind of research. But we were going to kind of talk about that and then maybe do a couple more videos. So why don't you just take it away there, brother? Well, first you can just use the example that you did last week, you insane man, you. But yeah, talk about that a little bit, and I'll
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing the cycle diet now for 12 years, so definitely a lot of epic cheat days in there. But yeah,
the last one with your two pizzas, just sort of describe like a I don't know if you get like, what do you got planned for tomorrow? Do you have anything planned yet for tomorrow?
Nothing planned right now, but yeah, last Sunday I did 2 medium pizzas at once. This is just one meal too. It's not like that was for the entire day or anything, but I did two medium pizzas at once, and then I did well, it was pretty much half a carrot cake. This was right after the pizza,
right?
And then I got into these things called brownie bombs, which were just like two bite brownies covered in like a chocolate shell. So, yeah, you can keep going. And when
here's though, I mean, what we were talking about was, here's the thing. If you had a slice of pizza of those 2 medium whole pizzas that you ate in one meal, if you had a slice of that every day, and you had a slice of that carrot cake every day, and you had a couple brownie bombs every day, then you'd be a big fat Andy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You wouldn't be a lean machine cover model Andy.
Yeah,
and
metabolism I'd be programming my metabolism to store body fat, basically. So yeah, but people don't get that, right? Like, and
well, yeah, I mean, you can tell the story of your last photo shoot, right, where you got in all that trouble because, I mean, you were just witnessing the nonsense going on around you, where all these. Well, you tell the story. Everyone's starving and doing all this weird shit, and you're like planning your Vegas cheat day. So.
Oh yeah. I've been to so many photo shoots, where people are just, I mean, they're basically miserable, right? They've been, dieting for weeks, and sometimes like no carbs at all. They barely have energy to even get through a photo shoot. And I've seen other people where they're following if it fits your macros diet, and they have like Fruit Loops weighed and portioned out that they've actually brought to, they're eating, a specified amount of like, Lucky Charms or Fruit Loops or something, and just ridiculous stuff, right? Or
I'm going to be debunking if it fits your macros next week for everybody out there. I'm going to be like, we're going to be showing why that's stupid, but
yeah, no, it's crazy, but
we're going to start. You're going to start doing videos of some of your cheat meals, right? So people can get.
Yeah, like I normally I just want to eat so bad that I wolf everything down so fast. I never get it on camera, but I need to make a better effort at doing that. But I want to eat so bad that I just want to sit down and enjoy it and stuff my face in peace.
There you go. Well, just for the education of it, we'll get it down there. But I think it was definitely a relevant point when we were talking, a little out of context now because it's after the fact. But and I just put up in the notes there, folks, the cycle.diet is the online course. And of course, there's Abs by Andy as well, that you get a lot of diet info there too. So I'll just write that. But yeah, when we were talking there, we were talking about how if you ate all that through the week, then you would be, overweight by a large, substantial amount. And people don't understand the training of metabolism. They just don't get it. Like it just, and it's a hard thing to get through to people. But then they only want to see the cheat the cheat, you know, they want to hear about the cheat. They don't want to hear about the diet days, right? So even though we posted, I mean, it was your actual meal that got this whole webinar going, was your whole meal, your fruit and nut meal, what got this going, right? So there's a post for absbyandy.com, folks, where you can see some of his cover shots and all the rest. But so I've been over an hour, buddy. Any parting words, like a little bit about whatever? Well, even tonight's webinar, if you want. I mean, Lord knows you eat your fruit and you eat your.
No, I mean, my next meal actually is, you know, I'll have an apple, a banana, an orange, probably some cantaloupe, maybe some pineapple, and some raw nuts. So I mean, there's like 4 or 5 pieces of fruit right there before bed too. So I mean, you can't eat that sugar before bed. You'll store it all.
There's another myth we just exploded. You can't eat before bed, and you can't eat fruit. Well, here's a guy who's a cover model with an 8-pack abs. But if you get absbyandy.com, I've seen that the one sequence where you're holding up the can of beans, and so you're doing that one plant meal with, you know, your protein is basically beans and rice.
Yep.
So, you know, starch-based, plant-based, fruit-based diet, high carbohydrate, low fat, just like all the research I just read to you. We do it in real life, real time. Andy isn't in shape 3 days a year. He's in shape 365 days a year, and we still can't get people to people want to believe the magic. They don't want to believe the common sense. And that's just something I don't understand. They want to go online and talk about keto or macro proportioning this and 5.8 grams of carbs after my workout at precisely 12 minutes. And, ooh, where do I get on board with that? But no, a common sense approach that you don't have to stress about, you know, that's not sexy enough. But, you know, and then here you are, like, and then you come on board with the common sense, and you're like 6'5" of sexy in a 5'10" bag. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I should be a poster boy for type 2 diabetes, according to the health and fitness industry, right? Like the carb-based diet, and, you know, these massive refeed days. And meanwhile, my blood sugar is always, you know, perfect, right where it should be. And then
here's Perry just asking a good question. Perry's just saying, you know, the no carb components and their followers, what do they look like? Well, here's the thing though, Perry, and I'll let Andy speak to it, and no point in having him on here and not letting him talk. But some of them look good, but the thing is, for how long? Like, someone wrote me today and said, I want you to get me in the best shape of my life. And my answer was, well, there's 2 kinds of best shape in your life. There's the kind that you'll never be able to sustain, like getting on a stage where you're going to look like that for 12 or 18 hours. And then there's the kind that you maintain, Andy, which is cover model ready, 8-pack abs all year long by having fun.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit. But I just wanted to point that out, Perry, because some of them do look good. It's just a question of, is it permanent? And no, it's usually not. And most of them on this nonsense are people trying to lose weight. They're former overweight, and, you know, they're thumping the Bible of whatever latest trend. They don't realize that this has been a remix of 5 decades of nonsense. But go ahead, buddy.
No, I mean, life and diet should be fun. I mean, the diet is a huge part of your life. And I mean, to not enjoy that, or to feel guilty about that, to associate it with negative emotions, I mean, that's craziness. I mean, even some of these people, they show up in shape to some of these photo shoots, but they have no energy. Like they're walking zombies. They're not functional. And I mean, exactly how long does that last for? Not very long. I mean, a week later, they might not even be recognizable anymore. Right?
For me, that's the frustration with the whole pretentiousness of it, right? They go back to the gym. Oh yeah, you know, I was doing a photo shoot, and, you know, a photo shoot, and they're walking around, photo shoot this and photo shoot that, and then 10 months of the year, they're, you know, they got to go back on a friggin' no carb, no energy diet.
Yeah,
and they don't tell the whole story, that their life is miserable, their wife is miserable, their husband's miserable, their family's miserable. Like, you know, I got this letter last week where someone's saying, oh, it's that time of year at my gym, all the girls are getting ready, and I feel kind of envious. And I'm like, well, have some context. Put it in context. What do you think their lives are like right now? You think that it's as joyful as they're making it sound at the gym? So
yeah. Oh, big time. They glorify the the 2 hours that they're in the gym a day, and then the rest of the time it's you wouldn't want to be around them, right? Like it's craziness. I mean, to live your life in a tiny world like that, and to think it's
and
it doesn't make sense to me, right? Like
one of my early books, one of my quotes was, "It makes no sense to me that the only time you can look your best is when you feel your worst." Like, how is that sensible math?
Yeah.
But So Mike's just saying, Lydia mentioned some people have been watching lately, and one thing I noticed, they're all fit and trim. I'm not sure who you're referring to, though, Mike. I'm not sure who you've been watching or whatever, but hopefully it's us. So I'm gonna try to. Oh, I got another question here. We're going into overtime, buddy. So Lorena's just saying, I've modified my diet following your books, not the cycle, because of a diagnosis of multiple myeloma. So I now follow your what to eat, which is mostly plant-based protein, but I also fast 2 periods a week to stimulate. I don't know anything about the medical part of that, so I'm not going to comment. I'm not a fan of fasting at all, but okay. It's working well, and I'm losing weight while eating fruits and potatoes, healthy fats, lowering my markers for cancer. Good stuff, Lorena, and we wish you the best in that, of course. And just, keep it to real foods. And if you're, the more plant-based you go, the lower your fats will go and the higher your carbs will go. And that's just, the carb connection that I was talking about earlier.
That avatar looks like Bob. I don't know if you noticed that. Her avatar?
Oh, yeah.
Like Bob, yeah.
Oh, where is Bob? Let's have a look at Bob, and then we'll sign off. Andy has a Bob, and I don't.
Yeah, he's not a gay lover or anything. That's just
he's your four-legged friend. So, all right. Well, I think. Oh, wait a minute. Another question. So Tony's just wanting to know: do you guys not eat any meat now? I will on a refeed day, but it's not on my diet during the week. No. It's not on my diet during the week. Andy, go ahead on your diet.
I definitely cut back a lot from what my original diet used to be like. I probably eat meat about 2 or 3 meals out of 5 or 6. So,
but not red meat.
Oh no, not red meat. No, sorry. I thought he meant just like meat in general.
The animal flesh versus red meat. We got to be specific.
Yeah. No red meat at all. Maybe on cheat days, but where anything goes. But not through the week on my regular diet. No.
And then Lydia's just clarifying Mike's comment. It was referring to the doctors we talked about, who are all whole food, plant based, and they're all slender and fit and look much younger than they are. So that's really important as well too. So glad that we got that clarification in. So, but the evidence is in, folks. I mean, I don't know. Look at pictures of Andy, and then look at the research I present. I just don't get this. Like, I think the first thing I said to you when we got together for coffee the other day, didn't I just roll my eyes and use a profanity laced rant? Just like you post a picture of a meal with fruit, and all you get is like, you can't eat that. Are you kidding?
It would bloat me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the sign of a good metabolism is being able to eat a high volume of food and not get bloated, right? Like that's the whole point we're making. Like,
and the whole fructose and carbohydrate thing has been so debunked that I don't even know who these people are watching when they tell us what we're not doing our research. I'm like, who are they watching? Because this research is everywhere. So But okay, so follow Andy at where are you on Facebook? You're Andy Sinclair Coaching.
You can follow me at Real Andy Sinclair on both Instagram and Facebook. That's my username.
All right.
You can go to realandysinclairfitness.com. That's my website, and
you can always crash us every Thursday at Starbucks on the west side in West Kelowna.
If you're in the area.
If you're in the area and you want to throw down, we got a Starbucks card. I need a holster for that baby. So, all right, buddy, I'll see you on Thursday. And,
Yeah.
and we'll have you on board again, but because we had a little trouble there. And but that's it, folks, for this week. So glad to have you on. That was live from West Kelowna, and the truth about fruit. Stop the nonsense. And hopefully you're hitting your share button. And I'll see all you guys next week, where I'll be debunking macros next week, and Fitbits and the rest of it. And Andy, thanks for being there, brother. Instead of being in the comment section, I'll try to sharpen up sending you that link earlier next time. I wasn't sure if it was going to work. So
all good.
Yeah, I'll bring you on board. Just have to wear Patriots hat. So. All right, folks, that's it for us, and I will see you all next week. Please spread the word, get it out there about people, and let's get some truth and some common sense operating out there, and I will see you all next week.